So the streets are talking, Victor.
Hey,
get him, daddy.
don't you walk on me.
I have a lady that she's fished with me for years. She fished with me and Bouncer for years, and she's seen some really good fishing. So when you have a really slow day, well, like it is sometimes in late January, February in Miami, you know, for somebody that's already spoiled to a high quality of fishing, it can be disappointing for both me and her because we've had some really great catches together. But, you know, you can't catch them if you don't go, man.
That's it. Can't catch them from the couch. Definitely
Exactly.
not. What was the trip last time with her like?
Man, it was last time I think we had a nice sail. We had a couple of kings. You know, we had some quality fish, and then we had a couple of snook in the inlet too, or something inshore. So we had a nice trip last time. But we've had some slow trips, but mostly she's brought pretty good vibes with her and good quality fishing.
Nice. And for our listeners that don't know, what inlet do you go out of?
Yeah, I'm fishing at a Haulover Inlet, which is, you know, the super famous one where you got, you know, all kinds of YouTube channels constantly broadcasting, because when you get that 15-foot deep water in an inlet and then you got an east wind and an outgoing tide and the waves are fighting against the tide, it gets stacked up in there, so it gets super rough. So you get a lot of people that go right up the middle of that white water. It's like a rapid, just straight up and down waves on an east wind, and you get all kinds of good videos out of there.
Have you ever had any personal close calls in there?
Yeah, man. Actually, I was running a 58-footer out of that same charter boat dock years ago. The owner probably wouldn't be too stoked to hear this, but you know, what's done is done. Man, it was a hard east wind. I'm talking like blowing 25, and I was running the boat, and there was a dredge operation.
Hey, listeners. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Brooklyn Fishing Club podcast. If you enjoy the show and want to rep your favorite show in style, check out our official merch shop. We've got everything from cozy hoodies to sleek jackets, graphic tees, and even backpacks perfect for your daily grind. Whether you're binging episodes or just want to elevate your streetwear game, our gear is made for comfort, style, and showing love for the BFC podcast. Plus, our gear is now shipping worldwide. Head over to brooklynfishingclub.com and grab your favorite one today. Thanks for supporting the show and looking great while doing it.
Basically, almost in the middle of the inlet, and the buoys for the dredge where they pump the sand off the beach and back through the inlet into the sandbar to replenish the sandbar, the buoys were like blown over to the side. They were supposed to be kind of out of the way, but the buoys got kind of smashed against the rocks a little bit and mangled, and I was coming in, and when you go down sea in there and you get that outgoing tide and an east wind, it gets super gnarly. And I was coming in, I surfed down one weird, and my bow got turned towards the jetty, and it was like I was really pointed right at the jetty. And so I backed off slow, I put it in neutral, tried not to panic, and I let the transmission slow come to a stop in neutral, and then I put the other one in reverse slowly. And as soon as I started to rev them, one stalled out, alarm went on, the other one stalled out, the alarm went on, dude. And I was drifting, and my pulpit was like, I would say 5 feet from the rocks.
Jeez.
And dude, I'm like, oh my God, like in my mind, it's going like 1,000 miles an hour. My mate's looking at me like, dude, what are you going to do? You know, he was like right next to me on the bridge, and he never really ran a boat. You know, he just, you know, he'd seen it done a bunch of times. But like, man, I had plenty of experience at that point already, but I just I turned one motor on and revved it in reverse, and I turned the other one on, and I pivoted out of there, one in reverse and one in forward, and I just like slid down that dredge buoy on one side of me, the rocks on the other side of me. The dredge buoy was like metal, and it literally like just barely touched the rub rail somehow. And I somehow didn't crash on the rocks with my prop. Like I had a freaking guardian angel. And when I pulled out of there, my buddy was netting mullet on the rocks, like this commercial fisherman. He was like whistling and screaming like, yeah, dude. It was a crazy, crazy experience. And the whole time I looked down, and the whole time the customer and his son were just sitting in the chair in the cockpit, dude, in the chairs, and they just had no idea that any of it went down. They were just like total, like just normal, nothing to see here. I had no idea any of it happened.
They're just like, yeah, this is normal. Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
normal.
they just didn't even, you know,
look
they
at those
didn't even
rocks.
realize.
Oh yeah, whatever.
Yeah, they were in the cockpit, you know, and I guess they couldn't quite see what was going on. I had them sitting down because, you know, it's so rough. But man, it was that inlet definitely gave me the jitters a couple of times. And then this like older captain took me under his wing, you know, and he was like, "Hey man," he's like, "let me show you." I was mating for him like one day a week, and I was running the other boat like a few days a week, and he's like, "Come here, man." He took me in the middle of that inlet on like the roughest day, and he just pulled it out of gear, and he just let the waves literally just break right in the cockpit over the transom and just float the fish box, you know, like that's how much water was in it. He goes, "Dude, that's the worst thing that's going to happen if you just take it easy and be calm about it." So after that, I was real chill, and I realized, you know, you just got to pick a side, and just the sides are always calmer, but that dredge buoy, man, that's what got me.
And just not panic, right? Like you just have to hold it together. Otherwise, you
just gotta not panic. Don't give it too much power, and you can usually get out of any situation, man. When you're running a boat, if you just take it easy, keep your heart rate down, and think, you know.
Yeah, that's great advice. Seriously, what were some other close calls you've had? Doesn't have to be in the inlet, but
I mean, dude, probably. The closest call we had with death was this. I was mating on this boat. I guess I was 18 or 19, and this captain I was working for, he was this badass blue marlin guy. He's like really a good game boat skipper. You know, that guy could spin a boat on a dime, freaking 9 knots in reverse, you know, chasing blue marlin and run the boat perfect, and been doing it for years. He knows every island in the Caribbean kind of thing. And we went down on this trip, and he took me from Hillsborough Inlet. We went down, we left, and we took this boat, this 57 Spencer boat, all the way down. We loaded up with all the marlin gear we needed, and got the boat ready. And then we took off, and we took our time down to Venezuela. But that's where we were aimed, dude. You know, we spent the night on the Hook and the south end of the Bahamas, Mayaguana, and then from there we jumped to Provo and the Turks and Caicos, and then Puerto Rico, then the DR, and then.
And are you fishing the whole time?
Yeah, we were fishing a little bit on the way down. You know, I think we caught a few fish, dolphin, or we raised a blue on a floater by Cat Island in the Bahamas, and then we just kept cruising down there. We got down, and we left Puerto Rico, and then we went to St. Thomas, and we were in St. Thomas. We fished a little bit. I think we raised some blue marlin, fly fishing. I don't know if we caught one or not. And then, yeah, that guy was really, really good. I was just trying to keep up, but I sucked so bad. You know, I was like this greenhorn kid. I mean, I didn't have any experience at all with blue marlin or anything like that.
Right.
Guy was pretty frustrated. And, you know, I mean, I'm sure I would be too if I had a mate that sucked like I did at the time. And dude, we got down there, we were sitting in St. Thomas, and we get this news, like there's a hurricane coming. It's going to be gnarly, you know, like it's going to be like a Cat 2, Cat 3, could be bigger. And we're sitting in St. Thomas at Red Hook Marina, and the captain tells the owner, like, "Hey, let's get going. Let's make the crossing, right? From St. Croix to Venezuela, it's like about 400 miles. And we had a fuel bladder.
So gnarly.
Yeah. So we had like this fuel bladder in the back of the boat. It was like 1,000-gallon fuel bladder. Plus we had 1,000-gallon fuel tank, and it was like enough to make it down. Captain knew what the hell he was doing. I mean, the guy was really good. And he said, "Hey, let's beat this storm down there. Let's get down there to Venezuela. Because if you sit here in St. Thomas and Red Hook, I think you could lose the boat here. Like it could sink at the dock because it's going to be bad." So, you know, and I guess he wanted to get fishing and whatever, you know, he just wanted to save the boat or whatever. So we get going, and I guess we didn't have the technology. That was like 2008 or 9.
Yeah.
I guess we didn't have the same weather algorithm technology or whatever as we did today, but it was good enough to know like, hey, we're good to go. So we hit it down there, and we're getting going, and we get fuel in St. Croix. Fuel, you know, we fuel the bladder, we fuel the tank, and then we start chugging, headed straight south, you know, from St. Croix down to Caracas is where we're pointing. And We get like 50 miles from shore. It gets a little bit windy, you know. It's like a little bit starting to blow a little bit, you know. It looks a little. The clouds are like changing a little bit, and then we get like 100 miles out, and it's like a solid like 10, 12 foot, maybe like here comes a 14, you know. And you're like, God. And I'm like, hey, you know, I didn't say much, you know. And I'm like, hey, Cappy. I looked over at him. We were on the bridge. We were kind of holding on tight, and I looked over at him. I go, hey, you ever seen it this rough? And he goes, son, I wrung more water out of my left sock than you ever seen. I go, all right, man. You know,
oh my God.
Yeah. So I go, okay, cool. You know, I didn't say anything else for like about another 12 hours, and then it's like about 20 foot seas on the nose. We're doing like about 3 knots, like coming over one wave in the middle of the night, and then like slowing down, putting it in reverse so we don't slam into the next one like through it, because we're coming down the wave and then crashing through the next one. Jesus. And I go to like take a leak on the back of the fly bridge. There's like a rail, you know, and I go to take a leak from the bridge because I didn't want to go down off the bridge because I thought I was going to fall because it was so rough. So I slipped through the rail.
Oh, fuck.
And I land on the fuel bladder in the cockpit, and I fucking like blow out the valve, and it's spewing diesel, dude. It's like 20 foot seas. It's pitch fucking black. The wind's blowing, dude, like 100 miles an hour, literally, right? Oh, and I'm like, yo, I'm like, Cappy. I'm like yelling at him, and he can't hear me because it's so dark and black or whatever. So I stick my thumb, I guess, or something in the fuel bladder, and I scream until I get his attention. And finally he hears me, comes down. He like, I don't know, he somehow banged a teat plug or something into that fuel bladder. So like he like saved the fuel somehow. I go back. I somehow crawl back up there. I'm like covered in fuel, like soaking wet. Everybody's wet. And like the owner, he's like with his wife downstairs, dude. The owner and his wife are in the salon. Shit. And it's been like a solid like 25 hours of this, like already, right?
They just see the first mate come flying to the tower.
No, I don't even know if they saw him.
No, I know. I could just like picture like the camera angle from them just like chilling in the cabin. Your body just comes down and like bright orange Grundins just hits.
Dude, no, yeah. Yeah, it was like, dude, so I go inside real quick, I guess. I go inside, and the owner's wife, she was like passed out. And she was like, I guess she had hit her head, dude. And she's like rolling back and forth, like bonking on one thing, like on the couch.
Oh my God, like ragdolling.
Like bonking. Yeah, like she's like roll, clock, roll, clock. So I stop her, and I like put her on the couch, and then like, I don't know, I like freaking wrap her head up or something. And then all of a sudden a boat goes sideways, dude. And it's like, oh my God, what the hell happened now? Like their wave just slams into the window in the salon, right? And I'm like, oh dude, we're going down, right? So like the captain's like, hey, he's like, get the ditch bag ready, you know, like get all the, he goes, get all the fenders, tie them together, and get me the satellite phone. I'm like, all right. So I get them all, I tie all the shit up, I give him like the satellite phone. He calls his wife, doesn't answer, leaves her a voicemail with the coordinates, dude.
Holy shit.
Like, hey, here's where we are. If we don't call back in 10 hours, you know, send the Coast Guard to these coordinates. We're literally in the middle of the Caribbean Sea, right? Dude, then I guess he takes a gnarlier wave, like a 30-footer or something. It just, boom, just blows out. He has to grab something so he doesn't go overboard. And he grabs, I guess, the throttle box, and it rips off the console, dude.
What?
So like, and this guy's cool as shit, dude, like badass captain. He's like, give me some duct tape, dude. I'm like, all right. I get him some duct tape. He puts that shit back together somehow, dude. 30-foot seas, the boat's sideways, bro, in the dark. So he puts it back together, dude. And we keep on trucking, man. We did another 14 hours. It was 36 hours we did at like 3 knots. And, you know, it gets calmer. We make it to freaking Las Roques, which is like this island about 100 miles north of Caracas, Venezuela. And we throw the hook. You know, he tells me to get the anchor stuff out of the engine room. I go out to the bow. I throw the hook. He goes, all right, get some rest. I go, oh my God, we lived, you know? And dude, I was like praying to God. I had the owner. We were holding hands, me and the owner praying to God, dude, during this, you know, like.
Oh my God, dude.
Oh yeah, dude.
Oh my God.
So then I was like, all right, get some rest. I throw the anchor. And like an hour later, I hear him stomping on the deck. Somehow he knew. I guess he didn't go to sleep. He knew that the anchor pulled. He goes, the anchor pulled. Like an hour after I freaking went to sleep that night, dude. So I went out there middle of the night, threw the anchor again. And then, man, we woke up and he's like, you're still cool as shit. He goes, all right, man. Well, that was crazy.
Just
I go,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah, it's just no
I
big
go,
deal.
yeah.
No big deal.
I go, yeah, it was. He goes, well, let's have some fun, man. He goes, go get your dive gear. And, you know, I started diving up. I guess I went diving. I got some conchs. I grabbed some lobsters or something. You know, it was like...
That's crazy. That might be the craziest story of like close calls that I've recorded on my show to date.
Dude,
that is wild.
It was wild. It was a wild time.
What was that captain's name? Is he still around?
Oh, yeah, dude. His name's Captain George Solly. He's probably one of the best Blue Marlin skippers to ever live.
How do you spell his last name?
Sawley. And, man, that guy could fish. That guy could run a boat. He could do everything. But I guess what had happened was a storm. The storm somehow took the opposite bump in direction. So he had planned on, like, that flat calm, which is associated with a hurricane. When you get a hurricane, it like sucks up all the power, the energy from the ocean. So it leaves you with like a really calm sea if you pick the right direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you get the right window.
But it somehow
That's
it bumped
crazy.
the other way, or it slowed down or sped up or something gnarly. But it was wild. That was Hurricane Omar, for the record, dude. That was the name of that storm.
Fucking wild. What happened to the lady?
It was what's that?
What happened to the wife of the
Dude,
owner?
that lady she lived. She was fine, man. She was a sweet lady. Her name was Susan. The owner's name was Gary. They were nice people, dude. And
so she's okay. It's good.
she's fine. Yeah, I mean, I haven't talked to her.
She
in
just
years,
got knocked out by one of the waves or something.
She like, you know, she hit her head on an ice machine inside or something. She got like broadsided by a wave, or you know, it was a wild time. Yeah, man, I lived.
Dude, I have my notes. I just put a line through sketchiest moments at sea because I think like that tops it. Like that, dude, that's insane. Did you look at life differently after that?
Oh, dude, yeah. I was like, man, when I got to Venezuela, I mean, full disclosure, I was like, hey, Cap, I go, look, man, I'm going to give you my 2 weeks here. I go, dude, I want to go see my family, dude. I want to kiss my girl. I'm like, dude, I can't believe I lived, you know? And he goes, hey, man, just stick around for a while and just get some of this fishing. You're going to love this fishing. And he was right. We had like the first 3 days we fished, we had like 3 grand slams. We had like 5 blues, 3 whites, and 2 sails the first day we fished. And I was like this crap ass mate. I had like, you know, my ballyhoos were like spinning, dude, helicopters. Like, you know, I was like just trying to keep up. I didn't even know. I was like, what was that? A blue or a white? He was like, it was a blue. You know, like, it was like, dude, it was such a blur. The fishing was so good down there. Yeah.
What was the biggest one you got down there?
We got one. He said it was 800 or 900. He said, you know, humbly, he said it was 800, probably 9. He got some pictures of it jumping and me kind of grabbing a leader and stuff. The guy was like running the boat like 11 knots in reverse at the same time, or 9 knots probably. At the same time, he had a freaking cannon on his neck and he was snapping pictures of the fish jumping. You know, he's a pretty cool guy.
That's wild. That is fucking wild.
He's still doing it, man. I went years later back to St. Thomas for a Boy Scout tournament. I was just going to be an observer with my buddy Freddie David. We went down there just to mess around and be observers in the tournament. And he's like, hey, I guess I had a lay day or two. And he was like, you want to come fly fishing for blue marlin with me? I'm like, yeah. And dude, we caught a couple and it was awesome, man. He's still slaying them. You know, the guy's still doing it.
That is so crazy. What's the fly like for those blue marlin? Like, what are you throwing?
I mean, it depends where you're at, I guess, but I'm not the leading expert. I was just a mate, but he was throwing a black and purple, like chugger head. It was like, you know, I guess it's like chicken feathers. And probably like looks like it's 9-inch fly or something, and you know, 8-inch fly, something like that. And then you got, you know, you would fish like those boss teasers, and you'd fish like the soft head ones. You know, not like it's like a coating on there, so you could pop them out when the blue marlin tease on them. You could pop them. You have to pop them at the same time the fish is up on it. And the fly's got to hit the water when the boat goes out of gear, and that teaser pops at the same time to switch them, because legally that fly's got to be in the water when the boat's out of gear. And then you got to strip, and hook him. You hope he piles on it at the same time. But if he doesn't, and George would say, hey, re-tease. So he'd bump the boat back in gear, he'd rev it up, you slide the teasers back out quick, and then here they come. The fish would come back up sometimes, and then you bait them again, throw the fly again, and then, you freaking angler would hook them, and you'd be on. It was really cool. It was really cool to see.
Sounds so gnarly. I can't even imagine doing that. I've never even fly fished, but it's the idea of popping lures at marlin. Oh, that's so fucking gnarly. What was the biggest one you got on the fly?
I guess he said he was 350 or so.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, man. It was cool to see that stuff. That guy's dialed in. He's done it for so many years. He just really had it dialed in.
What other places have you fished?
Man, I've been lucky. I fished in the Cayman Islands quite a few years with Bouncer Smith.
Oh, let's talk about that.
Yeah, man. We got lucky because I got really lucky, but Bouncer he was invited to go down there by this guy named King Flowers, who saw a big swordfish swim in the harbor one day. He swam right into South Sound in Grand Cayman. It was like 400 pounds, and the guys put a flying gaff in him, like in the canal or something. And they were like, the guy was like, dude, I gotta, they sold it to him because he has a big restaurant there and he only sells the best fish. He said, man, where'd you get that sword? He said, right in the harbor. He goes, dude, I got to get some guys down here that know how to swordfish, and we got to have a tournament, figure this fishery out. So he invited Bouncer, and then the next year I was his mate. So I think I went down there, I don't know, we probably did 7, 8, even 9 tournaments down there. I don't know, maybe more. And every year in March we would do it. We went down there and we'd go, we'd look at the chart all together at the seminar, that we'd have associated with the tournament, and I would rig some baits. I like rigging swordfish baits. So, I'd make some really pretty baits, and I'd give most of them away to the guys participating in the tournament. I'd keep a few for us that were whatever ones I selected for us to fish, and we'd pick some really good pinnacles and seamounts on the charts, and we'd talk to the local guys that were really trying it with us, and we figured out there was a lot of swordfish down there in some places, and some of them, man, they're really close to the island. I'm talking right off a 7 Mile beach in Grand Cayman.
That's crazy.
And they're right off the hotels, maybe 3/4, a half a mile, maybe what? 3/4 of a mile. Yeah. Because you got that 5,000-foot wall there.
That trench, right? Ariana Trench, I think it's called.
Well, you got the Cayman Trench, and then you got, and you got down there, it's just such a deep, quick drop that you could catch blue marlin, from basically while you're looking at you could almost read the license plates on the cars, that's how close you are to shore. But it was cool, man. We had one night, I think, me and Bouncer and the crew, I think we had 5 swords. That was our best night down there. And we had
5 swords in one night.
And I think 2 of them we baited them like sight fish, and they swim up in the lights, and I think Bouncer teased one of them. In his hand, he teased them and hooked them right in the light. And I hooked the other one in the light. And then, we each teased a fish and hooked them right in the light. And then we had 3 more that night. But I think we had one year we won with a 246 or something. That was the biggest one we killed. I think we had, that was a really cool place to fish, like I said, because you could fish really close to the island. And then there were some really good seamounts that you could run to. And before the sun went down, if you got there early, you catch yellowfin tunas and wahoos. And you could chunk them. You could just sit there chunking them. It was really, really cool place to fish, man.
That sounds awesome. Holy shit. Yeah, I fished there once when I was a kid, but we got skunked. So,
it could be like that.
It happens out here. It was a good learning experience because I went into that trip thinking I was going to catch a marlin. I was probably 12, and then I just got skunked. I had to accept it.
It's tough.
You know how that goes, part of the game.
Yeah, it's the bigger they are, the harder you fall. When you got kids on the boat, a lot of times, it could probably hurt my catches sometimes, but I try to bend some rods at some point when I have kids on the boat, even if it means catching 6-inch grunts or, 10-inch snappers or whatever it is, because, man, you got a little kid on a boat, you're trying to get them hooked. You want them to have a good experience and then come back. And, man, if you just troll that blue water all day with a little guy, they might never come back, you know?
Yeah, that's what they did. It was like a boat ride, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. It seems like that, even if they're trying some days, you know.
It's all good.
Yeah, exactly.
So how many tournaments do you think you participated in with Bouncer?
Oh man, we did swordfish tournaments, we did sailfish tournaments, we did meat fish tournaments, you know, which was like down here, it's, you know, out of Miami area, it's dolphin, tuna, wahoo, kingfish, and cobias. Those are like your meat tournaments. And we did dolphin tournaments that were just dolphin. I mean, me and Bouncer probably fished, I don't know, between 50 and, I don't know, 50 and 70, 80 tournaments together, you know, at least, I would think.
That's amazing.
We did over 50 together. We got really lucky and won, you know, some big ones. And
yeah, what are some of the most memorable wins?
I think the Miami Billfish tournament for us, we won it together one year, and that was just so memorable because you're right out front. You're in your backyard. It's like, you know, you're in your backyard and you're stomping around. You're like, this is my house kind of feeling, you know. You're like, I did it. Like, we fish here probably 10 or 20 times more than any other boat participating in that tournament. Me and Bouncer put the baits out in that same spot that we won the tournament. Well, I mean, I'd venture to say 100 times more in a year, maybe 200 times more even, because we were putting the kite baits out or the flat lines out or whatever it was. We were live baiting for sailfish 200 days a year, at least, every year. And so for us to win that one, it was like, man, we put our time in for this. That's why I felt so good.
Yeah. What was the purse on that one?
I think it was just like $45,000 or something. But for us, yeah, that was a good hit.
That's a nice hit. That's a nice bump right there.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, there have been bigger tournaments for sure. There were some massive sailfish purses. I don't think we ever won one that was like that, but there's been $300,000 sailfish tournament winnings for sure for a top boat before.
Let me ask you a little bit about your relationship with Bouncer. So how did that develop? How did you meet Bouncer? How did that begin?
I was working on a rental boat dock, Miami Beach Marina. That rental boat dock was caddy corner Bouncer Smith's boat, and I knew who he was because I saw him. I watch him on Saturday morning fishing TV shows on ESPN. I mean, I watch him in magazines. I read all his fishing reports, and I mean, everybody knew Bouncer was a man. You're growing up you're a little fishy kid in Miami. You know who Bouncer Smith was. At that time, when it came time, I was working on that rental dock. I was like, you know, I fished all the time, and I really wanted to like start mating on some boats. And I was talking with my buddy who was a private boat game boat captain there. He ran a Merit, Matt Tambor, and he said, hey man, you just need to go walk up to him, shake his hand, tell him your name, tell him you want to work for him. And so I did. I just walked right up to him. I was 16, I think, and I said, hey, my name's Abie. I really want to work for you if you give me a shot. And he said, what are you doing right now? It was like a Saturday. And I said, I'm working. He goes, well, go tell your boss over there that you're working with me today. Okay. But right now? He goes, right now. So I tell my boss I'm working with Bouncer, I jump on the boat. First trip I ever ran with him. We run out there. It was like he was just starting to experiment with daytime swordfish. And it was like one of his first ever daytime swordfish trips. He had brought a mate with him, but the mate, I guess, you know, you could always use a hand, I guess, from a young kid. So I jumped on and we went out there and hooked about a 220-pound fish. Thing comes up, you know, Bouncer tells me to grab a gaff. That guy grabbed the gaff, and, you know, I swung and I hit. And I stuck him in the eyeball and pulled him right next to the boat. And we grabbed his bill, put him in the boat, and, man, the rest was history, you know. And then I started filling in. I was doing tarpon trips with him at night. You know, because Bouncer was an animal, man. You'd fish all day for 8 hours, and then you'd fish a 4-hour night trip for tarpon after that every day. So I started fishing, filling in for his mates because they were burnt out. They couldn't hang with him. And so I would fill in, or, you know, if they could hang with him, they just needed a break. So I fill in on Saturdays and I fill in at night, and I just started working. And when I got out of high school, he tried to hire me full time, but I had just taken that job to go to Venezuela. So when I came back from that, he called me again, and that was it. I started working for him then. And we had a really good decade working together full time. And I think, including part time and all that, probably 13 years together. Really fun times.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to have fished with both you guys. You took me out that time. It was such a sick trip. I caught so many different fish for the first time. I caught my first sea trout. I caught a hogfish, which
That was cool.
somebody didn't get a great picture of.
Yeah, dude.
I remember I was like, yeah, I'll probably catch another one of those in another 35 years.
Right.
Yeah, like, I didn't even think, I like, up until that point, I didn't even realize you could get them on rod and reel. How often do you get those on trips?
Dude, I mean, this year I tried it a little harder, and when the water dips down below like 75 degrees in those shallows, get them probably like, I would say, of the times that we really tried for them, get them like 30% of the time. If you really, really try for them, if you're just messing around and you're not really trying hard for them, probably like 5% of the time will you catch one, and that's only a few months out of the year that it really works.
Yeah. What are the fish that you mainly target on a day-to-day basis? I mean, I'm sure it depends on the charter, but I guess what I'm saying is, like, do you kind of tell the charter what they're going to fish for sometimes, or you suggest it to them? Like, how does that work?
I always tell them what's biting best, and I tell them my plan, and I always ask them, like Bouncer trained me, hey, do you guys have like a dream fish? Is there something special that you guys would really like to catch? And if it's within my power, or if the opportunity presents itself, we can try it. And then on top of those variables, you got to manage expectations with weather. If it's rough, and I tell people this on the phone every time they book a trip, if it's rough, we'll be inshore. If it's calm, we'll be offshore. And if it's calm, likely we'll be doing both at some point. We'll probably fish a little inshore, a little bit offshore. So, to answer your question, in one trip, we might target snook, tarpon, jacks, sea trout, snappers inshore, and we might target sailfish and mahis and tunas and kingfish and wahoo offshore. So, it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife trip, man. I like to present it as such, and just, I like to be that guy that can kind of do all those things in one trip, just like Bouncer was.
Yeah, I caught a ton of, I'm going to like try to think of the amount of species I got. I got that snook, which you said was like a different kind of snook. It was like shorter and fatter.
Yeah, it's called a fat snook, the one you got.
Is that really what it's called? You fucking
Yeah, there's 4 different species now, I swear, dude. There's a fat snook, common snook, sword spine snook, and a tarpon snook, pineapple snook, snook gumbo. Seriously though, dude, those are the four. And
yes, I got that one. That one's pretty rare, right? I feel like
it was pretty.
I'd want to check off the list, especially coming from Brooklyn. That was a good one. I got the hogfish. I think, did we get mackerel too? I think we might have got.
Yeah, I think we had a Spanish mackerel or king mackerel, something like that.
And Bouncers out there just like killing it, just like still killing it. Like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Guys,
when you're good,
forever. He's like master Jedi. What else did you learn from him?
Oh my God, I wish I could remember it all, dude. I mean, that guy, he was, he's the greatest fishing mind I think that sport fishing is seen in our area, in history, as far as just his thinkability, like his ability to plan ahead and fish the tides precisely and fish the conditions that are presented to him as effectively as possible. That's what set him apart. And I think the greatest thing I learned from Bouncer Smith is probably treat every single person as if it were you chartering a boat. And if it was your trip, if it was a trip that you were paying for, how would you want to be treated? That's the greatest piece of knowledge I learned from him as far as being a good guide and as far as being a good fisherman. The greatest thing I learned from him was how to set yourself apart on days when nobody else is catching something. Because it's like he always said, when the fish are really chewing, anybody that can put a bait on a hook can be dangerous. But when they're not biting, those are the days that set you apart. Your ability to produce fish on a really tough day.
He's such a legend. He's one of the few guests that I like interviewed in person since I moved to Florida, and he came over to my house. He chilled at my kitchen table. And then the next day I was fishing with you. It was like my head was spinning by the end of it. It was such a good experience. I got the sea trout, that like just popping for him like that and watching him like kind of wake a little. That was, I think, if I come down again, I want to just book you, just go after those. Like, for like
that's so much
hours.
fun.
Like,
Yeah, the trout bite's so much fun. The bite itself, for anyone that likes light tackle angling, I mean, that's a drug, man, because it's so visual and the bite itself is so exciting, you know.
yeah. Were you with Bouncer when he told me this story about how he was so superstitious about bananas that he ripped out the tags in these people's clothing because the Fruit of the Loom logo had bananas on it?
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, I watched him do the most ridiculous things, but I mean, I watch him, you know, on a daily basis. Like, oh, is that Banana Boat sunscreen you got there, sir? Oh yeah, it is, Bouncer. Oh, can I see it for a second? Yeah, sure. They'd hand it to him, and he would launch that sucker right overboard. I mean, are those plantain chips? Yeah. Oh, can I have some? They'd hand it to him, and he'd launch them right overboard, dude. I mean, it was like
Same play every time.
oh yeah, it was awesome, man. I mean, you would say like someone would pull out some bananas, like or like a banana boat sunscreen at the end of the day. And they'll be like, "Look, Bouncer, we still caught fish, man. We caught 2 sails, and we had bananas on the boat." And Bouncer would say, "Oh my God, imagine how many we would have caught if you didn't have those things." So classic,
Oh
dude.
my God, that like sums him up. So
Yeah, dude. Oh yeah, that
So
guy is.
funny.
You know, he's still sharp as a tack.
he said Fruit of the Loom changed the logo. He said he ended up taking out like one of the CEOs or something, and he told them about it, or like slapped a banana out of the guy's hand or whatever he did.
Oh, dude,
But
he was fishing
said,
one.
he said they changed the logo. They removed the banana from it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, he was fishing one day, and he was anchored next to this other guy, a friend of ours, Dennis Forgione, and he was anchored up and on the same shipwreck, and they were fishing the same bait and the same line and the same everything. And the guy next to him just whaling the fish, dude. And this guy's like, Bouncer's catching nothing, and he's trying his ass off like always. And finally, Bouncer says, "God damn it, someone on the boat's got bananas." And he goes, "If they don't got bananas, someone on the boat's got Fruit of the Loom underwear on." And this guy just jumps up, puts his hands on his hips, spins around, and he goes, "What would you say if I was a vice president of sales for Fruit of the Loom?" And Bouncer said, "I would say take them bananas out of the logo because they're bad for business." And he says, man, about 2 months later, there was no more bananas in the Fruit of the Loom logo.
That is amazing, legendary.
Yeah,
That's like iconic. Like he made this giant company change the logo.
right. Yeah, he had 4-inch letters on his windshield on like 3 of his boats. It said "No bananas" right on his windshield.
Dude, you got to send me some of these pictures. I'm sure you have them.
Yeah, I'll send you some. And, you know, I mean, dude, remember everything Bouncer was doing too. He's like a marketing genius, right? Because people remember all this stuff about bananas. It's not only is it like interesting, it's funny, it's memorable, and it's like, it's fun, and it's a way to pass the time. If the fishing's slow, it's a great excuse. You know, like Bouncer was like, he was a genius in that, you know, in so many aspects, but that was one of them. The no bananas thing is such a good marketing tactic, dude.
Dude, the guy's a genius. He's a fucking genius.
Yeah, it was really good.
What, you've seen some shit, huh?
Yeah, I'm a little salty, dude. I'm a little angry, bro. I got some leathery hands. Dude. For a 36-year-old dude, I got some leathery hands, you know.
Oh my God, man. Holy shit. Oh man. Fucking, I still can't get over that hurricane story, bro. That is like, I'm telling you, it's one of the gnarliest ones I've heard on here so far. Always ask my guests about that, and that one. Here's one question I have. What's the dumbest shit that you've seen?
Oh my God. I mean,
especially coming out of that inlet.
Dude, first of all, let me start by saying I've seen so much dumb shit. I can't remember 90% of it. But one time, me and Bouncer were tarpon fishing, and it was like just after sunset where it got really dark. You know, the sky would get really dark, but it's not pitch black, but it's dark enough where you can't see some shit in front of you. And me and Bouncer, we're resetting, and we're kind of like, Bouncer's trying to mark some tarpon, and I'm kind of looking for him rolling and rebaiting some shrimp in the back of the boat, hanging on the live well, and we just hear this big freaking crunch. And Bouncer's like, "What the hell was that?" And I said, "Yeah, it sounded like it came from the North Jetty over there. We were in the middle of Government Cut." And we motored over there, and we looked, and there's a boat, and he's almost 90 degrees. The bow is almost 90 degrees in the air. And he had just about like probably 15 miles an hour, 16 miles an hour, just chugged right into the jetty. And his bow was straight up, almost straight up in the air. And the guy was sitting with his butt on the transom like a seat, because now the transom was flat pretty much. So you could, instead of being vertical, it was like horizontal now, like a chair. So he was sitting on it with his arms crossed, and there was water floating all around him above his waist and on the jetty. And his cooler was floating around his torso, and his sandwich was like bobbing against his chest that had come out of the cooler, And we go, "You okay?" And he said nothing. And we go, "Dude, are you okay?" And he goes, "God, why did it have to be you guys? I'm just so goddamn embarrassed right now." And dude, we called the Coast Guard. They came over there, and the boat slid off the jetty and sunk like a rock as soon as they got him off. He was just so embarrassed. That was the dumb part. It was just an accident. It wasn't really like, the guy wasn't dumb by any means, but the dumb part was just like, he didn't want to answer because he was so embarrassed. He was like,
he would have rather died.
Drive away.
Rather died than see you guys.
He was like hoping that we would just keep driving.
Yeah. Leave them on the rocks.
Yeah, dude. You just wanted to crawl under one of the rocks,
So what did they do? Did they salvage
they put them on the boat. Eventually they floated the boat. Towboat came, and, they had a giant hole in the bottom.
What a nightmare.
Total. Oh, yeah.
I'm sure the city, makes you pay a ton of money to, get that shit salvaged from the inlet. I'm sure it's a massive fee.
Oh, yeah, dude. It was
something crazy.
The towboats, they hammer you if you're not a member or something. They hammer you for salvage. And even if you are, I'm sure they do too. But, it's a big job. They got to float the boat with airbags and shit. It's a huge job.
Yeah, in the inlet. It's insane.
Yeah. It's in the middle of the night, It's massive.
That is fucking crazy. Who's your worst client ever?
Oh, it's
most nightmare client of all time.
Dude, we had this guy. He stepped on a boat one time, and you could already tell. I mean, he's asking Bouncer Smith, this is Bouncer. He'd already been doing it. Bouncer had already been doing it full time for 50 years at this point, And the guy's, "Hey, Bouncer, what do you think about going over here to this wreck?" And, I don't know about that wreck. I'm not really sure about that. Bouncer's kind of really biting his tongue, because Bouncer's freaking, he'll let you know. The guy's, there's nothing fake about Bouncer. He's going to let you know 100% of the time exactly how he's feeling, right? As long as he can be polite enough, but he's not really too worried about that if you're starting to be a dick. So the guy's we start fishing and we drop a bait. I drop a live bait, and the guy goes to Bouncer and me. He goes, "Hey, why don't your leader's a little heavy, don't you think, for this spot? Why don't you go a little lighter on that leader? It looks a little heavy." And, we're giving him regular answers do you want to lose a fish in the bottom every time? Or, so, our regular, our standard answers, and the guy keeps picking at Bouncer, and he goes, "Man, I don't really like," he goes "Hey, Bouncer, I don't really like how you're fishing this wreck," he said to him. And Bouncer goes, "Hey, stop." And he looks at the guy's face and he goes, "What do you do for a living?" And he goes, "Well, I'm a CPA." He goes, "Well, if I need any goddamn accounting advice, I'll call you. But if I want any fishing advice, I'm going to call me." He goes, "Wind him up, baby. We're going home." Wind him up, and he takes me right in. We go home, and he goes, "Get off the boat." Told the guy, "Get off the boat." That was it. He freaking didn't charge him, sent the guy packing, and that was it. That was it, man.
How was that ride back?
Oh, for me, I had a giant smile on my face. I loved it. I was like, man, I don't have to fish with this guy. And Bouncer just freaking put the guy in his place. It was great, man.
Honestly,
it was one
what he said to that guy, almost reminded me of something Kanye West would say to somebody, just something so true, it's so crazy. The guy was probably so shook. He's probably fuck.
Yeah,
I'm a fucking CPA out in the middle of the ocean. Maybe I should shut the fuck up right now.
Dude, he told the guy, and the guy he was just crushed. Actually, when he got back to the dock, he was apologizing and shit. He was, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Please, can you just take me back out fishing?" "Nope, get off the boat." And he just sent him, dude.
Sent him packing. That's it.
It was great, dude. One time we had this guy, he was so, he was so into drinking that he couldn't even fish about an hour into the trip. We had the kite baits out, and we're drifting on a sea anchor, and the guy was he was slurring, so bad. By 9 o'clock in the morning, And he was, by 9:30, we got a bite. And I said, hey, we got a sailfish on. If you want to come back here and just grab this one, he's starting to bite this long bait right here. I'm just going to walk you through it. And I turn around and the guy's literally face down, passed out in the beanbag, right? Just passed out drunk. And so I hooked a fish and I'm fighting a fish by myself. Bouncers running the boat. I say, we catch the fish. The guy's still passed out, face down. And I say to bouncer, I say, man, this guy, he's kind of an idiot, huh? And he goes, whoa, stop. And I go, what? I go, what do you mean? He goes, that's not true. He's just a drunk. And I was like, all right. Because I guess Bouncer had fished with him, before, and he was like a nice guy. It was like really funny, dude. Like I learned a lot of wisdom from that. Like at the end of the day, like Bouncer always said, at the end of the day, their money all spends the same. Doesn't matter, dude. If they're not putting you in danger, their money all spends the same. You try just as hard for all of them.
Exactly.
But man, it was, we had some foolish ones for sure, dude.
Some other dumb shit that you've seen. I want to hear some more haul over inlet stories.
Oh man, one time we're fishing in the inlet. This guy, he hooks a snook and a big, giant freaking bull shark comes up. I'm talking like 400 pounds. Like just swallows the thing, like just gulps, runs for like 1 second, bites through the 50-pound leader, and he's gone. And dude, the next bait I put out, we get a snook bite, and the guy go, hey, you got a snook on right there behind you. And the same guy that just had that snook eaten picks that spinning rod up, and he puts a finger on the reel stand to like lift it out and grab the rod, like you grab a spinning rod to lift it out of a rod holder at an angle. The rod holders were angled 30 degrees towards a transom. So when you lift it out, it kind of makes you want to drop your tip towards the motor. And when he did that, the snook bit at the same time and just took off. And the rod slipped right through his hand and just smoked like a bubble trail straight into the water. And as soon as it did that, the guy jumped right in after it. Immediately in after it. As soon as he hit the water and realized what he had just seen and what he did, he just turned and looked at me like, get me out of here. Get me out of here.
Dude, I did the same thing. I'm not even kidding. I'm going to send you the video. I got video footage. I gaffed a 40-pound king right in the tail. It was my first day trying to be a first mate. It was like my first and last day, bro. And it's such a tough job, dude. I don't know how you guys do that shit. I'm just going to stick to interviewing these guys. I'm going to die out here, dude. There's sharks all around the boat. I throw the gaff in this thing's tail, slips out of my hand. I'm like, there's no way I'm losing a gaff on my first day. Literally go over the side after it, pop out of the water. And the captain's like, yo, the gaff floats. And he's just laughing and just have to swim back to the back of the boat. I'm just like, fuck, yo, sucks.
And you must have been freezing too up there, right? It wasn't like warm
No, this was down here. I tried to do it down here. It was out in Fort Lauderdale. And there were a lot of sharks around, a lot of kingfish and a lot of sharks around the boat. I saw a baby tiger shark at one point. And I went right in after it, dude. It's catch fish or die trying. That's how it is sometimes.
Yeah, no doubt.
The guy just went in there. I could just see it. It's like you would rather go in than stand there and just look like a chump. It's like, I don't know. I would rather go in the ocean. I don't know.
At least you're going down swinging.
Yeah, dude. Oh my God. Yeah, that trip was funny. That was the morning trip. And then in the afternoon, we took 8 OnlyFans models who were pouring beer down each other's butt cheeks and drinking it. It was so bizarre, dude. I'll send you some.
Wow.
I'll send you some videos of that trip too.
Send them if they weren't dudes. Yeah.
No, dude. Yeah, no, they definitely were because they were wearing absolutely nothing. And then we pulled up a Goliath grouper with them, and it was this dude who's pretty much starting fish themed porn, and he's imping out these 6 chicks on the boat, dude. It was the weirdest. He's like an OnlyFans pimp or something
Okay, yeah, maybe he's on to something there.
He might be. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was just a very, very bizarre trip. The one girl took a shit off the back of the boat because she ate Chipotle before. Don't ask me how I know those details, but she was fucking floating off the little ladder in the stern. And I'm like, what is she doing? Floating back there. I'm try not to look. And then captain told, I'm like, he told me later on, he's like, yeah, she said she ate Chipotle.
You're like, how rude. How rude.
She just took like a giant shit. I'm just like, yeah, it happens. Like, yes. But like, it was so funny because she was like, you know, she's like this good looking chick. And she's just ripping a Chipotle shit in a shark infested water.
Oh, yeah.
It's fucking absolutely ridiculous.
She was like, if you chum, they will come.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's so bizarre. What a bizarre trip. But,
wow.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
What are some of the coolest trips you've had with some of your clients where you just like checked everything off that they wanted? Like, how often do you pull that off?
Oh, dude, it's so rare. But I mean, you know, you fish with a guy like Bouncer Smith, you know, it's a little more common. I mean, we had some stoke moments. We had this girl. She was like a world record chaser, and her and her dad. And I think, you know, I don't know if she still record fishes or not. Her name's Heather Harkeby. Her dad's name's Jeff Harkeby. And they're like world renowned, world class anglers. I mean, these two, you know, like father daughter combo, they could like throw a fly and like, you know, they could throw a fly and land it on like, you know, a freaking piece of like a lice on a fly's ass at like 100 yards. You know what I mean? Like they're perfect fly anglers, these two. And the dad never really fished. I didn't know how good he was until years later. But the daughter, you know, she was like the young Jedi. She was like, you know, already when she was like coming of age to like really fish hard, when she was like 14, 15, 16, she fished with us and we went over to the Bahamas record chasing and we'd fish up on like some shipwrecks over there in swimming pool, clear water. And man, she wanted to chase these records. And I think in one day, I think we caught like 12 world records in one day with this girl. And it was like Bouncer was just like writing the whole day.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
I'm just rigging.
I think he told me about this. I've heard so many stories, you know, it's hard to keep track of them. But yeah, dude.
Yeah, it was like,
keep talking about it. I don't want him to think that I didn't remember. It's just like, there's a lot.
No, it was like, wow, it was like African pompano, horse-eye jacks, amberjacks, sharks. It was like just all these different species and line class records, and all of them were on fly. I mean, it was pretty remarkable. I mean, once in a while, you'll get a trip. Like one day we had like 4 guys on like a split business trip, like an IBM convention kind of trip where like you have a bunch of businessmen and they come over to the dock in like a bus, right? And like 40 of them get out. And this was when I was actually not fishing with Bouncer. I was running that other boat out of Haulover, that bigger boat called, and named the Therapy. And we had these guys get off this bus, you know, and 4 of them jumped on our boat, and each one of them wanted a different fish. You know, one of them, the mate came upstairs and, you know, he told me, this guy Chris, really good mate, he told me one of them wanted a barracuda, one of them wanted a wahoo, one of them wanted a shark. I think the other guy wanted a sail. And we go out, we pop out the inlet, and we put the baits out. First fish, big barracuda, put it in the boat. Guy was stoked. We run out to the reef real quick. We put the trollers out, hook a wahoo. Guy catches his wahoo on the way down to a shipwreck. Get to the shipwreck, drop a bait for a shark. Boom, the shark bites. The other guy catches his shark. We put the live baits out with the kite. Bam, the 4th guy catches his sail, and then we go home. It was like, yeah, it was like one of those things where you get super lucky with godsends, basically, and all the timing lines up. Just stars and planets line up, dude, and you're like, wow, that was incredibly lucky. But once in a while, man, you see something crazy like that, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Besides the banana superstition, have you heard of any other ones? I'm always curious about that. Or do you have any like ones that like you believe in besides the banana? Like stuff you won't do or stuff you will do, or is it just like just don't go out with bananas?
I don't like to leave a gaff out when you're fishing and you're not fighting a fish. Terrible luck to leave the gaff out. The fish just know that it's time to die. It's just not a good idea. So you always rack your gaff when you're not fighting a fish, not only because it's literally bad luck in the form of like, you know, it's in the way and somebody could break a fish off on that gaff point or on the actual gaff stick, or you could fling your gaff in the water if like a kite string goes under it or something. But it's just mostly bad luck because the fish know. They just see it and they know. So the gaff, needs to be racked. That's my biggest superstition.
I never heard that one before, but it seems so obvious, like thinking about it. Now I'm thinking back to these trips where I've gotten skunked. I'm wondering if the gap was out.
Yeah, and then when you're sail fishing, we like to have the tag stick loaded. Tag stick's got to be loaded. If there's no tag in the stick, then the fish know there's a pretty good chance you're trying to kill them and not let them go and put a release tag in them. So you got to have that tag stick loaded. That's big superstition, but that's probably my top three. Bananas, put the gaff away, keep the tag stick loaded, and you're good to go.
Nice. Do you have any advice you would give to people trying to become a captain, like first mates out there needing to move up?
Yeah, man, I would say sacrifice your personal life and forget about partying, staying out all night, drinking, drugs, all that crap. Because if you can focus and you can work really hard and sacrifice and be there every day and do everything right every day in a good operation and show loyalty to a really good captain, put your time in like that, eventually you build yourself a customer base, and eventually that captain's going to want to retire, and you might find yourself in a position like I did. So that would be my best advice I could think of, man.
Nice. Along the way, have you ever felt like burnt out to a point where you kind of lost your love of the sport?
Man, I'll tell you, one time we had 3 months of seaweed, and the seaweed was so thick that you could not fish for 10 seconds all day. 10 seconds, you couldn't have a break from the seaweed. There was seaweed on everything all day for 3 months. And at the end of that 3 months, I told Bouncer, I said, Bouncer, I don't know if I could do this, man. I can't. It was so frustrating because you would put your baits out and you have to wind them in. You put them out, you have to wind them in. And it was like, you couldn't imagine how frustrating it was. So yeah, man, after a while, I said, Bouncer, I don't know if I could do this. And he said some of the wisest words I ever heard. He just said, you got to fish through it, Abie. You got to fish through it no matter how hard it gets. And that phrase in just how it equates to this labor of love, man, it's everything in this sport, because you're going to have so many times of adversity. You're going to have terrible days, and everybody on the boat's going to know about it because your office is so small. Everyone's going to know you're having a terrible day, and you got to fish through it. And when you got 3 months straight of thick sargassum seaweed on all your baits, you got to fish through that too. And, and you got asshole customers sometimes. They're freaking demanding and tearing you apart. You got to fish through that too. Or you could take them back to the dock like Bouncer does.
What's some of the craziest stuff like a client has said to you, or you're just like, your fucking mind is blown that they even said that?
You know what, dude? The craziest thing a client ever said to me was when my wife was pregnant. And I don't know, can we speak freely on here? I mean, what kind of...
Absolutely, dude.
So it's kind of gnarly, but my wife was pregnant and we were sword fishing. And someone else on the boat, he was like a good customer of ours. He was like, oh, your wife's pregnant. Congratulations, man. That's so awesome. And he had brought his friend. And we're out there sword fishing, flat calm, beautiful day, not getting any bites at the moment. And this guy that he had brought with him, he just looks over at me and he goes like, man, when your wife's pregnant, it's like I heard it's like better sex because it's like so warm. And I was like, dude, at no point in my life did I want to drown somebody so fucking bad. You know what I mean? And I was like, dude, that was like the weirdest, craziest thing I've ever had a customer say to me. I'll never forget it. It was so shocking.
What do you even say to that? It's like, yeah.
The first thing that came out of my mouth was I turned to our good customer and I said, dude, your friend is a sick fuck, dude. And he started cracking up, dude, and I guess I just like laughed too. I was like, Bouncer laughed, everybody laughed, it was like, it was just the weirdest thing. But I had another guy tell me, he looked over at me one day and I was like, oh, you see that big sea turtle? We were out there live bait fishing one day, bottom fishing. We had a couple kite baits out. And the guy was like, oh, yeah, I see the sea turtle. He goes, I did 2 years in prison one time because I kept one of them. And I was like, kept what? He goes, a sea turtle. He goes, I had it in a lobster trap. And then I was raiding traps, when you lift up somebody else's trap illegally. And there was a baby sea turtle in there, and he took it and he put it on his boat to go home and eat it. And the cops caught him. They took his boat. He did 2 years hard time for taking that sea turtle, dude.
Good. They do not fuck
Hell
around
yeah.
down here. That's crazy.
So I've
he
heard-
literally grew it in attempts to eat it. That was his end goal. He was going to eat a sea turtle.
Yeah, dude. It was like, that was going to be his soup or whatever, It was weird.
Out there.
But yeah, I've
raiding
heard some
traps.
super,
Scumbag, dude.
super shocking, weird shit. But
Like, what else? I love this shit.
I mean, dude, I've had some weird shit, man. I mean, trying to think of some of the freakiest stuff, man, that I've heard. I mean, people are absolute freaks sometimes, but you hear so much shit, you forget about it. One time we found this Cuban raft. We were rolling up there. And bouncer's like, oh, okay, well, let's get ready to call it in. I guess he like puts his hand on a radio and the customer's like, oh, no, you can't call that in. He's like, excuse me? This is my boat. What are you talking about? And I kind of perked up like, man, am I going to have to fight somebody? And the guy was like, no, man, you're not going to call those guys in. What are you, they're going to send them, they're going to detain them and they're going to deport them. And dude, all of a sudden it was like a full blown political situation on board because the guys didn't want to like call in these immigrants and bouncer was going to call them. We had to by law. You need to make sure they were safe and rescue them, all that stuff. You have an obligation. And
Right.
anyways, we ended up, thank God there was no people on board. It was just an empty Cuban raft. So we didn't have to deal with it. But
In the end,
weird,
it was just empty.
while we were pulling up, it got strange for sure.
Were there any fish around it?
I don't think we caught anything off. They must have already okayed it, and the Coast Guard probably picked all the dolphin off it. Who knows? But
I wonder if
it
those
was-
people survived or not.
You always wonder, man. You always wonder.
Do you know Doc Marty?
No.
What's his name? Martin, I can't say his last name. He's got like 412 world records.
Oh, yeah, no, that's Dr. Martin Rostige, man.
Yeah.
He fished with me
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago. He fishes with me like every month or two.
Yeah,
with
dude,
his
that guy talked to me for 5.5 hours, bro. I have a 2-part episode coming out with him, and it's gonna be really good, bro. That guy is gnarly. He's fucking.
Oh, man.
He's in the IGFA. His wife's in the IGFA Hall of Fame. Like,
Oh, dude, yeah, they're some of
Hall
the
of
best
Famers.
anglers.
Both the kids have world records, like of their own. And
Oh, yeah.
his story is crazy. How he came over here. That's what made me think of it.
It is crazy.
Came over
And
And
yeah.
he survived that crossing. Like, he became a fucking doctor. Like, that's the American dream right there. That is.
Dude, wait till you hear the rest of his story. That guy's a baller. But his son, you should do a story with his son too. His son's like probably the leading like fisheries like ichthyologist, like marine biologist, doctorate marine biologist, probably the leading guy in the country. When I have a fish question, I ask him, his son.
Really?
So you should definitely
If you could
talk.
put me in touch with him, that would be sick. I would love to interview him.
Yeah, so you got Dr. Martini Arostegui, which is
Yeah.
his son, and then Dr. Martin Arostegui is a dad. But yeah, I'll put you in touch. But yeah, man, I hate to run off, bro. But
Oh, dude, we got some great content. This was such a fucking good interview, bro. Like,
That's
the interview
awesome.
literally starts with you being like, my closest call with death is, and then
well, that's great.
it's going to be a really good one, I'm telling you.
All right, cool.
But thank
man.
you
Well,
for your time, man. I'm looking forward to fishing with you again in the future at some point.
You too, Vic. Thanks for the time, bro. I appreciate it, man.
Anytime, man. Have a good night.
You too, buddy.
All right,
See ya.
bye.
Hey, don't you walk on me. worship the ground.